Hey y'all, what's good? And welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you guys so much. Let's remember to have healthy dialogue, be respectful to ourselves and to each other, and to challenge the argument and not the person. Let's get it.
Good morning, Ms. Johnson.
Good morning.
Please state your full name, spelling your first and last name for the court reporter.
Erica Johnson, ERICA JOHNSON.
And Ms. Johnson, are you gainfully employed?
Yes.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a patient care nursing assistant at University Hospital.
How long have you been so employed by them?
A little over 2 years now.
And do you have some children?
I do.
And how many children do you have, and their names and their ages?
I have 2 girls, Mackenzie and Madison, and they're 4 and 6.
And do they reside with you, ma'am?
Yes.
And ma'am, do you have brothers and sisters?
I do.
Okay. Can you tell me your brothers and sisters' names?
Isaiah Day, Eric Johnson, and Sierra Day.
And you all share the same dad?
No.
You share the same mom?
Yes.
Okay. Who else shares the last name of Johnson with you?
Eric Johnson, my brother.
All right. And Sierra and Isaiah,
They have the last name Day.
so they share the same dad?
Yes.
Okay. So you all have the same mom. What is your mom's name?
Natalie Proctor.
All right. Do you also have some older brothers and sisters?
Yes.
And do you just know their names?
Yes. Auden Johnson, Howard Johnson, Alicia, Daryl, and Mike.
All right. And what last name do all those folks go by?
I know Auden and Howard go by Johnson. I'm not too sure of the other 3.
All right. And with regards to your family dynamics, how would you describe the relationship amongst all of you? Who was the closest of siblings?
Me, Sierra, Isaiah, and Eric, we all grew up in the same household, so we were the closest.
All right. And who is the oldest sibling within those 4 folks?
Eric was.
All right. And Sierra and Isaiah are twins?
Yes.
All right. How old are you, ma'am?
I'm 26.
All right. And how old were they?
24.
What is their birthday?
January 20th, 1994.
Okay. Your birthday
Oh, that's your ex for theirs. January 9th, 1993.
is your birthday.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so, how would you describe your growing up years?
It was pretty tough. We had a rough childhood growing up.
And where did you go to high school?
Shaw High School.
All right. Did you all go to high school at the same time?
Yeah, they came in a little later. I believe once I was in either 10th or the 11th grade, they came in.
All right. And did you have same or similar friends?
For the most part, yeah. We hung out with each other, so.
How would you describe your relationship amongst your brother and sisters?
It was pretty good. We were really close. We were all each other had, so.
And did you maintain that into adulthood?
Yes, we did.
Who was the first one to have a grandchild?
I was.
All right. And was it Madison or Mackenzie that was first?
It was Madison.
All right. And there come a point in time that Sierra got pregnant.
Yes.
All right. Who was Sierra dating at the time?
Michael.
And how did that go? Did she stay? Where were you all living at the time?
We were still living with my parents at the time still, when they started dating.
All right. And so when you were living with your parents, again, your parents' names?
Natalie Proctor and Eddie Day.
And where were you living at?
When they first started dating, we were staying on 146th Street in Kinsman.
Okay. And when Sierra got pregnant, where would she stay?
We stayed at the house, at my parents' house.
When the child was born, where did they go?
They were still at my parents' house.
All right. And did this mean Michael too?
Yes, they stayed in the attic together.
All right. And where were you living at the time?
I was with my parents also I was kind of like back and forth between my parents and my current boyfriend house at the time.
All right. And did there come a point in time where you moved out of your parents' home and Sierra and Michael moved out of your parents' home?
Yes.
Okay, about when was that? And who moved out first?
I want to say I moved out first. I moved out into my boyfriend's home, and then Sierra moved out. She and Michael went to stay with a friend. They rented out a room from their house.
Okay. And during this time, were you gainfully employed?
Yes.
And where were you working at that particular time?
Cleveland Clinic, I believe.
All right.
Yeah.
Same type of work that you're doing now?
Same kind of work, yep.
And what about Sierra? Was Sierra employed at the time?
I believe so, yes.
Right? And would you often visit with your children?
Visit where? My parents' house?
Well, where would you visit with you have Mackenzie, and she now has a baby. What's the baby's name?
Aniya Day.
All right. So would you guys socialize, spend time together, have the cousins play together?
Yes.
Okay. Where would that take place?
It would take place between my house and my parents' house. Sometimes we went to Sierra's house also.
All right. Now, did there come a point in time where Sierra and Michael got their own apartment?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember where it was?
Harbor Crest.
All right. Did you visit at Harbor Crest?
Yes.
All right. And when she was at Harbor Crest, do you know approximately how old Aniya was when they moved into Harbor Crest?
Anywhere between 1 and 2, maybe. I really can't recall back that far.
Fair enough. And so, tell me about the holidays. Would you spend the holidays together?
We did. We spent it at our parents' house.
All right. Who would do the cooking?
My dad.
And like 4th of July, Memorial Day, all those types of other national holidays, would you spend them together?
Yeah, we tried to spend the holidays together.
And who would participate in that, other than you and Sierra?
Isaiah, my brother Eric, my mom, friends, and other family if we invited other family.
All right. And so during this time, do you come to learn that your sister gets a job at a daycare?
Yes.
Okay. What daycare does she get employed at?
Get Ready, Set, Grow.
Okay. How do you come to learn that?
She tells me.
And how often did you speak to her when Aniya was 1, 2, and 3 years old?
Pretty often. We kept close in contact with each other.
And would your children spend time together?
Yes.
Where would they spend time together?
Mostly at my parents' house.
And did they share in activities together? Play dates, things of that sort?
Yes.
And who would they be left in the care and custody of when you weren't around?
My parents.
All right. And with regards to Aniya, when she was over, who would be in care and custody of her?
You talking about when we leave or?
Yes.
My parents would, yeah.
And were there occasions where the adults would go out and leave the children for overnight visits with your parents,
Yes.
all right? And what kind of activities would you and Sierra and Isaiah and Eric do together?
We just hang out, go out, have drinks, just hang out with each other.
And would you go over to the Harbor Crest apartment?
We didn't really go to like our homes. When we hung out and the kids stayed with my parents, we would actually like hang out at different places, like a bar or something. If we had the kids, we would just stay at one of our houses.
So when you went out, the kids would go to grandparents?
Yes.
And during the time that Sierra was with Michael, would Michael also participate in activities with the siblings?
No. The only time we would participate in any activities with him is if it was like one of his shows or something, because he's the rapper.
Okay. And so you would go watch him or?
Yeah, I would go with, when they were together, she would go with to support him and I would go to support her. So we would all go together at those events, yeah.
Okay. And approximately how long was it until Sierra and Michael separated?
I'm not really sure. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I have to recall back something that I said. They didn't stay at Harbor Crest together. They stayed out in another apartment complex out in Euclid.
Okay.
When Sierra moved to Harbor Crest, she was by herself with Aniya.
Okay. So at that point, her and Michael had separated?
Yes, that's when they separated, yeah.
All right. And now that she had separated from Michael, where was Aniya going for babysitting?
Still my parents' house.
All right. Was she in any daycare?
Yeah, she was at the Harbor Crest daycare that's connected to the Harbor Crest building.
Okay. So she was going to the Harbor Crest, and where was Sierra working at the time?
Get Ready, Set, Grow still.
Okay. And with regards to the training for Get Ready, Set, Grow, did you ever go to Get Ready, Set, Grow to see your sister?
A few times when I would pick her up or bring her something randomly. Yeah, I visited a few times.
All right. And so if we turn our attention to July 20th of 2017. Is that a familiar day to you?
Yes,
Why is that?
it's the twins' birthday.
Okay. And when you guys have family birthdays, what would you do?
We'll have little gatherings. That day for their birthday, they had threw a party in her building, the Harbor Crest building.
Okay. And who was present for this birthday party on January 20th, 2017?
Me, Isaiah Day, Sierra, Deontay, a few other friends that were invited.
All right. Were the kids there?
No,
All right. And so tell me, who is this Deontay person that you introduced?
he was someone we knew from high school.
Did he have a nickname?
We called him Noodle.
All right. And did you know him from high school?
We didn't really hang out, but yes, I knew him.
So did you know just of him?
For the most part, yes.
All right. And so how does he come to join the activities on July 20th, 2017?
He came as Sierra's boyfriend.
Okay. And did you come to learn that they were starting to date?
Yes.
All right. And did you observe their relationship initially, like July 2017, August of 2017, September of 2017? Can you just briefly walk me through that? What were your observations of them together?
They were always together. Every time Sierra came around, Deontay was with her. He had a car, so he was like basically her ride. But whenever I seen my sister, I seen Deontay.
All right. And so did your sister have any method of transportation at that time?
Herself?
Herself?
No,
She didn't own a car or use a car or anything of that sort?
no.
So did she use public transportation?
She would when she had to, yes.
All right. And is she still living in Harbor Crest in July, August, September of 2017?
Yes.
And so when you would have family functions in September, we have Labor Day, right?
Mhm.
What did you do Labor Day of 2017, if you remember?
I really don't. I don't know. Most likely we was probably at my parents' house.
Did your dad cook?
Yeah, he cooks for every holiday.
All right. And did you have an opportunity to see Aniya in September of 2017?
I really don't remember. It's possible I couldn't even been there. I worked third shift, so sometimes I wasn't even able to be there. So I'm not sure.
All right. Well, the times that you did see Aniya, how often would you see her from July 20th, 2017 to October of 2017?
I didn't see her as much. Like if we were trying to find something to do, my sister would come over to my house with her, but I really wasn't seeing her as much in that year.
Okay. Did there come a point in time where you received a telephone call from Mr. Dick? I'm sorry, from Mr. Garrett asking you for some help
In 2017?
at the end of 2017?
No,
Did you call him at any point in time?
I did, yes.
All right. When did you call him?
Roughly between December of 2017 and possibly January. It was roughly between those 2 months.
All right. Well, before those 2 months, how often did you see Aniya in the months preceding December?
Not as often.
Okay. So when was the last time you saw her before you made a phone call to Mr. Garrett?
Physically,
Yes.
it was December 25th of 2017. An incident occurred with my mom where it called for all of us to come over there to see what was going on. And they had Aniya with them. Sierra and Deontay did.
Okay. And can you describe her for me?
She was sleeping. Deontay was holding her.
Okay. Did you see her walk that day?
No,
Did she have clothes on?
she did.
Did she have a coat on?
She did.
All right. Did she wake up during the time she was there?
No, I didn't see her wake up.
Approximately how long were they there on December 25th, 2017?
It wasn't that long. It was probably like 15, 20 minutes.
All right. Did you all have dinner together?
No.
Did they leave?
Yes.
Okay. Did they leave together?
Yes, they did.
Who was carrying Aniya?
Deontay.
All right. Did you ask how she was?
I didn't.
Did you have any concerns at that point?
I had concerns way before that point. But at the time, me and my sister, we weren't speaking. We had a little falling out. So it was a quick me seeing them and that was it.
All right. Well, let's talk about when did you have this falling out?
Probably a couple months before then.
So around September, October of 2017?
Yeah, roughly, yep.
And what was the basis of your falling out here?
Something really little, stupid, siblings getting mad at each other over dumb things, and we just weren't talking to each other.
Okay. And was that a change from talking to her all the time
Yes,
and seeing her all the time
yes,
and seeing your niece all the time?
yes,
Okay. So did you make efforts to contact her?
I did.
All right. Did she return your efforts?
No.
All right. What kinds of things would you do, ma'am?
I'll text her, I'll call her, I was blocked. Tried to reach out through social media. I was blocked. I even sent the message to my brother, Isaiah, to send to her personally from me because I knew something was wrong and I
Okay?
just wanted to reach out to her.
Okay. And what do you mean something was wrong? What did you believe to be wrong?
She became very distant. She stopped like coming around as much. We didn't hear from her as much.
When did that change begin?
Within that time, that year, 2017,
Was it before or after she met Deontay Lewis?
it was after.
Okay? And so what are the noticeable changes you saw?
Like I said, she became distant. She wasn't coming to a lot of family, events. She wasn't coming around a lot. She wasn't staying around as long as she would stay. She wasn't talking to my parents as much. Aniya wasn't coming over as much as she used to.
Did she bring her, when she came around though, would Aniya come with her?
Yes, most of the time, yes.
And what were your observations of Aniya? How would you describe her as a child?
She didn't really seem like a child. She was very standoffish. She really didn't. Seem happy.
Would she play with Mackenzie and Madison?
She did.
Would she be by herself at times?
Yes. At my youngest, I threw a birthday party for her on July 30th of that year.
Of 2017?
Yes.
Okay, where was the party at?
It was at my house.
Okay. And what happened at the party?
It's a normal kid party. Everyone was having fun. Adults were, watching the kids and they were playing in the pool and chasing each other, just having fun. And Aniya was just pretty off to herself, playing with herself, not really interacting with the other kids.
And did Sierra and Deontay come to the birthday party?
Yes,
Where were they at?
they were upstairs.
Okay. Did you go over and try to engage Aniya?
I went over to ask her if she was okay. She said, yeah, she was playing with my girls' bikes and stuff that was in the garage. So I kind of just left her to herself to do her own thing. I just thought maybe she just wanted to play by herself.
And during this time, when you started to see less and less of Aniya, what were your observations of her physical condition?
She was getting smaller. I thought maybe that just had something to do with her getting taller. When you grow, toddlers grow, they slim out a little bit. She was getting littler and littler to the point you can see the extension of her stomach sticking out, so to speak.
And when was that, ma'am? When did you see that?
That was the day of the party when I seen that.
Okay. And did you talk to your sister about it?
I didn't really interact with her that day. I was kind of like controlling the party, sort of speak. I was downstairs the whole time outside. And like most of my friends and stuff, they came over and got to see her, they stayed upstairs.
Okay, like a grown-up party upstairs and the kid party downstairs.
Basically, yes.
Fair enough? Okay. And was there alcohol like upstairs for the adults?
Yeah.
All right. And so the kids were downstairs, so you were primarily with the children?
Yes.
Okay. After that party, ma'am, did you take it upon yourself to contact your sister?
After that party?
Yeah.
No.
Well, when did you have the falling out with your sister?
It was later that year in like October.
Okay. So tell me the circumstances of that.
Of the falling out?
Yes.
Like I said, it was just something stupid we fell out about over her not liking something that I did, and she just stopped talking to me.
All right. Did you say anything about Aniya, or were you concerned about Aniya?
Throughout that year, I would say little things, I would observe things, and I really didn't want to think that things were what I was observing in my head, but I would ask questions and I would get excuses, and I just left it as at that.
All right, well, what kinds of things did you observe?
Aniya been taken in a separate room to get discipline.
Okay. Who took her in the room?
Sierra Wood.
All right, and what did you observe?
Aniya coming out crying, going to go sit down by herself. One time I even observed Aniya coming out with a bloody nose.
And what did you do as a result of seeing that?
I asked my sister about it.
And did she provide you an answer?
She made up some excuse, something, she fell or she hit her face on something. I don't know. But it was never something that she did.
Okay. And what do you mean by that, ma'am?
About what?
About something that she did. What do you mean?
Well, she never admitted to it, her being her hitting her or anything. It was just Aniya fell.
Okay. And so based on that, based on those answers you were getting, did you, there come a point in time where you tried to confront her?
I didn't really confront her. Like I said, I just asked her about it. I was more so just sitting back and observing and seeing what was going on. But when we lost contact, I was kind of thrown into the dark. I wasn't sure what was going on after we lost contact.
All right. And after you lost contact, what did you start doing?
I would reach out to my brothers. They were still in contact with her. I would talk to them to see how Sierra and Aniya was doing.
All right. And you can't tell me what they said, but would they provide you information?
Yes.
And based on the information that they would provide to you, did you start doing something?
Yes.
What did you do?
I was contemplating on contacting the Children Family Services people.
Okay. And does there come a point in time where you contact Michael Garrett?
I did.
Tell me when that was.
I can't remember if it was before I made the call or after, but I did contact him. I told him my concerns. I told him what I was worried about. And I stated to him that I felt that he should get custody.
Okay. So these concerns, did you share these concerns with Children and Family Services?
Yes.
All right. Can you please tell me, ma'am, what did you tell Children and Family Services and what did you tell Michael Garrett?
I told Michael that I felt like Aniya was being abused. Something wasn't right, that they were hiding her. She wasn't coming around a lot, and that we needed to do something to stop this. I told Family Service the same thing, that something was wrong with my sister. Something was going on with her. She needed help, and that they needed to get my niece out of that household.
All right. And approximately, ma'am, when did you make that phone call?
Probably in January of 2018.
All right. And up to this point now, since Madison's birthday party, did you see Aniya again, other than on Christmas Day 2017 for about 20 minutes?
I mean, before our fallout, yeah, I would see Aniya still. She was still coming around, and I would see her here and there.
So when did you actually stop seeing her?
After we fell out, after October, I officially stopped seeing her.
Okay. And were your kids still going over to Grandma and Grandpa's house?
Yes,
Was Aniya going to Grandma and Grandpa's house?
she was, yeah.
Okay, but you weren't here,
No, I would drop my kids off so I can go to work.
all right? And so you contact Michael and you contact CC, Children and Family Services,
Yes,
okay? And does somebody reach back out to you?
yes,
Okay. One of the agency workers,
yes,
all right? And did you have a conversation with the agency worker?
yes,
Did you try to provide some information with regards to any information you had on that?
yes,
And Ms. Johnson, during the time that your sister started dating Deontay Lewis, where did you know them to be living or hanging out?
it was at Harbor Crest.
Okay, to your knowledge, was he also living there with her?
Might as well.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
They were always together. I assumed that he did stay there with her.
All right, and had you known that there was a move to Cultural Gardens?
I had no idea.
So you never went there, don't know anything about that?
No,
All right, when you called Children and Family Services, what did you want them to do?
I was hoping that they could remove Aniya from the home, from the information that I gave them, but apparently that's not how it works. They had to first go out and do their investigation.
Okay, and this information that you had obtained was information that was shared by your brothers with you?
Yes,
Did you share that same information with Mr. Garrett?
yes,
Ms. Johnson, other than what you have testified to, how did you learn of Aniya's death?
a friend of mine called me Monday morning. She seen on the news about a 4-year-old girl out in Euclid by the name of Aniya Day who was found dead. She called me and asked me if Sierra and Aniya was okay. I had no idea. Like I said, we lost contact before then, so I had no way to contact her. So I called my brother Isaiah to reach out to her. He couldn't get in contact with her. So we drove out there to Euclid Hospital because I know they stayed out in Euclid, so I assumed that was the first place I should go. They had no answers for me, but they told us to wait in a room. Some people came and talked to us. After they came and talked to us and found out what we were there for and what information we were trying to find out, they sent us to the police station.
And did you meet with the police officers at the police station, the detectives, and provide them the information you provided here to us this morning?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions at this time.
Judge, one moment, please. Main part. Thank you. Morning.
Good morning.
You told us that things drastically changed at some point with Sierra.
Yes,
And about when was that?
that year, 2017. I can't really recall what month of that year, but it was that year things started changing.
Before that, things were good.
Things were fine. Yes,
Aniya was good.
yes,
Good relationship.
yes,
Aniya was healthy and things were going along fine.
yes,
She was a good mom,
yes,
Sierra.
yes,
And obviously you were involved in Sierra's life since she was a small child, correct?
yeah,
And involved in her day-to-day activities as a student and as a child.
yes,
And you know some of the difficulties that she had,
yes, I do.
learning disabilities,
Yes,
special programs at school,
yes, she was an IEP.
and to the point that even when she was a senior, she was functioning on about a third and fourth grade level. Would that be fair? Academically,
Yeah, yes,
she had to see certain counselors regarding whether or not she could get a job or a vocation.
I don't know about that. I wasn't aware of that.
You're not aware of all what her EIP entailed.
No,
She had to see at some point a psychiatrist regarding that.
no, I didn't know that.
So you weren't privy to all of the family history with her at school or the things that were going on.
Yes, I knew she was in special programs because of her learning disability that she had.
And maybe kind of I don't want to say a mood, but things where she would look as if she wasn't interested, an affect or blank,
I'm not sure what you're asking.
probably not asking me very well. She was in special classes.
Mhm.
She had an IEP,
Yeah,
and that's about as far as you got involved.
that's about all I knew. Yeah, I didn't think it was anything more than that.
Difficulties reading or comprehending,
Yes, she had difficulty reading, not a really good comprehension, not a lot of common sense, nothing like that.
and kind of, as I said, stalled out at a third or fourth grade level.
Sort of, yeah, if you want to say that.
And that continued through as she came to be an adult, correct?
Yeah,
So did you have concerns about her ability to do things based on that? Just live on her own?
at first I was, but then when I seen she was living on her own, I mean, she did it, so
But you did have, at least early on, some concerns if she could make it on her own due to some of these limitations.
in a way, yeah,
Was that discussed within the family?
no,
Just the way it always was?
yeah,
But then you saw that she was able to function on her own,
yeah,
and things were going well for a period of time,
mhm,
and then you noticed a drastic change.
yeah.
And I think you indicated to the prosecutor that you had hoped somebody would get her some help.
I wanted to get her help.
And when we say her, you wanted to get Aniya out of the home and get Sierra help.
I stated that to the CDF lady. I said, my sister needs help. I want to get her help and I want the child removed.
Because something had changed.
Yeah,
Tommy, excuse me 1 second, Judge. Could you describe for us how Sierra and Aniya acted acted together before you saw this change?
It was normal. It was how they always acted together.
Is it an example, or how was their, did you say normal, playful, good relationship?
I mean, she would bring her over. Aniya was attached to my dad, so once she brought her over, my Aniya and my kids were kind of just over with my dad, and they kind of stayed up under him. He spoiled them. So I mean, everything seemed fine. Like it was always fine.
And then you noticed the change.
Yes,
Was it a gradual, or was this more of a drastic thing?
it was a gradual change.
And then you noticed the things that you described to us earlier.
Yeah.
A lot of contact with Sierra since this happened.
Yes, I have.
She's written you a number of letters,
Yes.
dozens.
Yes.
How many would you say?
Well over 50.
And you've written her back.
Yes.
Not quite as many though, right?
No.
And would you describe her as a spiritual person?
We grew up in the church, so we always been pretty spiritual.
Those letters contain a lot of references to
To
the Bible,
to the Bible. Mhm.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's something that's been maintained.
Yes.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you.
You want me to? Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
now, you said that, recording testimony probably correctly, you said that around September, or October of 2017 is when you and your sister fell out about something.
Yeah.
Did that fall have anything to do with Deontay Lewis?
No.
And you said from that you assumed that they lived together because they were always together.
Yes.
Do you mean they were always coming to family functions together, or you saw them on a daily basis together, or how?
Whenever I seen Sierra, I seen Deontay. Whether it was at a family function, we met up somewhere, we kicked it, whatever we did, they were always together.
Okay. And that was between the months of July and September of 2017?
They were hanging out before then too.
Oh, I thought they got together at their birthday party, at twins' birthday party in July.
They probably got together I don't know exactly when they got together, but before the birthday party, they were together. Like I said, they came to my daughter's birthday party together, which was July 20th. Before then, they were hanging out with each other. I have multiple events at my house that they came to.
That was prior to July?
Yes.
Okay. So, you said that you witnessed your niece, your sister, took your niece to another room, then your niece came out crying. And one time she came out with a bloody nose. Did you ever witness such a thing from Deontay Lewis?
Seeing him
Did you
take,
ever witness him take a knife into another room and the knife come out crying or come out with a bloody nose?
no,
Did you ever witness him harm his child at all?
no,
Hey, Bob, just a couple of questions here.
Ms. Johnson, you agree with me that though your sister may have had an IEP while she was going to high school, she got herself gainfully employed, they get ready, set, right? She signed the lease for Harbor Crest Apartments, correct?
Yes,
She was paying her bills to your village,
yes,
taking care of her daughter.
yes,
So all, she was functioning just like you and I are functioning, correct?
yes,
And the change, you saw a change in her in July of 2017, you said somewhere in that, but it was a gradual change. It started happening even before July of 2017.
yeah. It was little things that I would notice, but I didn't make a big thing out of it until closer towards the end.
All right, and these little things that you were noticing, were they her methods of discipline of Aniya?
Yes,
And did you talk to her about that?
I didn't really think nothing of it at first. I stated to you before our childhood, how we were raised, how my mom was with us. I didn't think nothing of the discipline at first.
Okay, but, so when you say how you were raised, for instance, a whooping, that would be acceptable,
Yes,
okay, because you were whooped.
yes,
Did you whoop your daughters?
yes,
Okay, so when you saw that, initially you didn't think anything of it,
no,
but gradually, it started to affect you more.
yes.
Why?
We would see Aniya with bruises. We would notice that she would have a bruise on her face or a scratch or a cut or something. And when we asked about it, it was always something happened. She fell at daycare, something happened at daycare, something happened while she was at my parents' house. Started noticing that more and more. And I know for a fact the child doesn't hurt themselves that much. So it was just pondering in my mind that whole time, and yeah.
All right, and was there something that changed in Sierra's life when Aniya began to change as well?
What do you mean? Was there?
Well, was she, in the beginning of 2017, was she dating anybody?
She was dating. She wasn't really dating. She was talking to guys, but not really dating someone.
So when did she start really dating?
When she started dating Deontay,
And did you start to notice more changes after she started to date Deontay?
yes,
Thank you, Ms. Question.
Thank you. Graham. Sierra was able to sign a lease, right?
yeah,
She was able to secure some type of employment, correct?
yes,
But you would have concerns about whether or not she'd be able to do that before she did, correct?
I did.
You did.
Yeah.
That's based on the academic and functional limitations that she had, right?
Yeah,
So it would be fair to say you were pleasantly surprised that she was able to pull this off.
I was happy that she did it.
Because again, based on what you described as her academic and functional limitations and her, I think you said just complete lack of common sense.
Yeah.
You didn't know if she'd be able to do things like sign a lease and or get a job.
Exactly, yes.
But then she did, and that went on for a while.
Yes,
You with Sarah and her daughter?
I do.
Thank you.
You want me to know?
Yeah. Now, you said that you observed changes in your sister that they were gradual.
Yes,
So, did these changes start before she started dating Deontay?
they could have, yeah.
Okay.
They could have, yes.
Please step.
Good morning, Ms. Green.
Good morning.
Please state your full name, spelling your first and last name for the court report.
Laura, Lorra,
Green, Greene.
And ma'am, do you live here in our community in Cleveland?
Yes, I do.
And are you gainfully employed?
Yes.
All right. And what do you do presently?
Presently, I'm a substitute teacher.
And prior to being a substitute teacher, were you gainfully employed with the Department of Children and Family Services?
Yes.
All right. How long had you been so employed by them?
I worked for Children and Family Services from May of 2016 until August of 2018.
And when did you end your employment with them?
My employment was terminated August 3rd, 2018.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about when you were there. What were you hired as?
I was hired as a social worker 3 in intake.
All right. And what kind of training and experience did you have to maintain your position?
They give you 3 months of training. Much of it is in a classroom. Some of it is shadowing.
And once you complete your training, did you successfully complete your training?
Yes.
And how did you start to obtain your cases?
They start off with a smaller caseload, so 1 case a week. They up it to 2 cases a week. And after that, you join the regular rotation.
All right. And when you finally joined the regular rotation, what rotation were you in, and what unit or department did you go into after all of your training in your shadow?
I was in the intake or short-term services unit.
All right. What does that mean, the intake short-term services unit?
Short-term services is the unit that receives cases once they arrive through the 696 hotline.
And what were your, just generally speaking, what were your duties and responsibilities upon receiving a case?
Upon receiving a case, you have to make contact with the family, visit with the family, and complete assessments based on observations and interviews.
And did you have particular priorities at the time when you were employed by them about when you needed to go out to the home, the time period, time frame upon receiving a referral?
Yes.
And what was that?
There's a priority 1, which is a traditional case. And then there's also alternative response case in which you have a certain amount of days to go out and see the family.
All right. Ma'am, were you gainfully employed with the Department of Children and Family Services back on December 17, 2017?
Yes.
And did there come a point in time that you received a referral for the well-being of Aniya Day Garrett?
Yes.
Right? Ma'am, can you tell me, upon receiving that referral, what were your duties and responsibilities with regards to this case? And what did you in fact do?
Upon receival of the case, first thing, make contact with the referent, which I did. Also to make attempts to the house or make contact with the family in order to schedule. I don't recall every single detail of what I did in the days that I did it. But in making contact with mom, it was initially an unannounced home visit because I didn't have the correct phone number.
Okay, so let's start with, before we even get to the house, let's start with the referral. You receive a referral,
Yes.
okay? How is it qualified, or what is it designated?
The referral came in as an alternative response.
And what does that mean?
So alternative response, I can't give you an exact definition, but with alternative response, it does allot you several days to, you're allowed to schedule with the family, and then you have several days to make contact with the child in the home.
Okay, so it came in as an alternative response phone call,
Yes.
all right? And then do you, at any point upon receiving the referral, do you take it upon yourself to call back and chat with the referent?
Yes.
Okay, Did you do that in this case?
Yes.
Okay, and without telling us what was said, what was your next step?
After speaking with the referent, the next step was to make contact with mom and child.
Okay, so who was the mother
Sierra Day,
and who was the child?
Aniya Day Garrett.
Okay, and were you provided information or addresses of where they may be residing?
Yes.
Okay, and this is in December of 2017,
Yes.
right? So what do you do first and where do you go?
I went to the address that was provided for me.
All right, and where was this address at?
I don't recall the exact name of the apartment building. It might have been Harbor Crest, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, well, did you go to a house or an apartment building?
I went to an apartment building. It was on the first floor.
I'm sorry?
She lived on the first floor. That's what I remember.
All right, and do you remember what city you were in?
Euclid.
All right, so you go to this place in Euclid, and does anybody answer did you rap on the door? Did you call via intercom? How did you make your method of communication?
It was a locked building. I don't remember if it was the first time that I went to the house or the second, but I remember that another resident had to let me in. And I remember knocking on the door, and I did encounter mom. But in the first visit, I didn't see the child.
Okay, so tell us about your first encounter with mom.
First encounter with mom, she stepped outside of the apartment, closed the door.
Did you identify yourself?
Yes.
Did you tell her why you were there?
Yes.
Why were you there?
I was there to investigate allegations of abuse and neglect.
All right, and so do you make her aware of that?
Yes.
All right, what do you say to her and what does she say to you?
I remember summarizing what the allegations were for her, and I remember her being upset and frustrated. I remember her saying that she had just dealt with DCFS a few months prior and that she felt like she was being harassed. She told me that Aniya was not home and that she was away with an aunt. She didn't specify the name of the aunt, but that she would return at a later date. And at that time, I scheduled a home visit to meet with Aniya.
Okay, so when do you go back and meet with Aniya?
I went back to meet with Aniya the day that she told me that she was going to be back. Well, actually, I went back on the day that I scheduled with her, and she told me she was not home. I actually had to come back the next day.
Okay, and that was back when?
That was in December.
2017?
Correct.
All right, does there come a point in time that you do see Aniya at this Euclid apartment in December of 2017?
Yes.
Do you remember the date?
I do not remember the exact date.
Was it before or after Christmas?
It was before Christmas.
All right, and so you go there. What are your observations?
I remember when I entered her apartment that it was very clean. The first thing was, I just remember it was like a big shoe rack. And I remember she politely asked me to take off my shoes. I know the condition of her house, it was very clean. So, without a problem, I take my shoes off. It was a very small apartment. I remember there was a bathroom when you first enter. There was a room straight ahead. And there was a living room and then a small kitchen. When I walked in, Aniya was on the floor watching a tablet and eating popcorn. Mom was listening to gospel on her laptop, and she told me I could have a seat on the couch.
Okay, did you have a seat?
Yes.
All right, so what did you do while you were there?
While I was there, I spoke with mom about the allegations, about history about her current employment, things of that nature. I asked her about Aniya, and she also gave me information as well. I feel like I was there for a while.
Okay, so when you say you were there for a while, about how long were you there?
I had to be there for at least an hour, at
All right.
least.
And when you were speaking with Sierra Day,
Mm-hmm.
did she understand your questions?
Yes,
Was she able to provide you answers?
yes,
At any point in time, did she tell you she was confused, she didn't understand what you were saying, or anything of that sort?
No.
All right. Was she functioning the way you and I are functioning today?
yes.
So what types of questions did you ask her, and what answers was she providing at that time? What were your concerns, or what were the concerns that you were there for?
The concerns I was there for was that that Aniya was being physically abused. And we discussed that typically when I would visit houses, there was like a guideline as far as questions I would ask. And every now and then, depending on the environment or depending on the case, you may deviate from those questions slightly. But generally, you want to know about income, employment, who watches the kids, ask about, making observations for the way the house looks and things like that.
Okay, well, did you ask about employment?
Yes,
Was she gainfully employed?
yes,
All right, did she tell you she was receiving child support?
yes,
And so she had a mode and method of income that was coming into her home,
yes,
able to take care of her child,
yes,
all right? You observed the child,
yes.
okay? Do you usually question the child in the presence of the parent or outside the presence of the parent?
Outside of the presence of the parent.
Okay, so how did you do it in this particular situation?
In this particular case, it was in the presence of her mom.
Okay, was it because of the spatial area you were in?
Yes, it was a very small apartment. And then also at times, Aniya was very timid. And she reasoned that Aniya thought that she might have been in trouble because she hadn't seen me. I had a badge. And sometimes it was a little difficult to understand what she was saying.
Oh, Aniya.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's get back to the mom now. So do you question her? You question her about her employment?
Yes.
Question her about money that's coming into her house, child support and checks. Was she getting food stamps for the child?
I don't recall.
All right. Do you ask her about these allegations or bruises?
Yes.
Do you observe the child physically?
Yes.
Okay. What are your observations back on December of 2017?
Observations of Aniya.
Yes.
Aniya was a petite, light-skinned little girl. She had ponytails, and she was soft-spoken. I remember when I was talking to her, she it seemed like she kept twisting. And I'm like, "Are you nervous, Aniya? Like, it's okay, relax, you know." And I remember Mom prompted me and told me that I'm like, what does she like? What does she like to do? She told me she likes to dance. So to kind of get her to relax, I remember asking her to, shake your shoulders, show me a dance that you like. And I think it might have been something like the folk or something that she likes to do.
Okay.
So she did do a little dance for me.
Did she stand up on her own 2 feet?
She was standing in front of me the entire time that I talked to her.
Okay.
So I didn't talk to her while she was seated on the floor.
Okay. So when she was standing in front of you, what is your method and mode of examining a child to see if there are bruises, bumps, anything of that sort? What do you do?
For Anaya, I first lifted up her shirt. And I talked to her the entire time that I was doing and explained to her. And I remember she just kind of like took a breath. And so I was like, it's okay, Anaya. And I, kind of talked to her and she relaxed a little bit. There was no type of marks or bruises on the front of her body. On the back, there was a small scrape. I remember asking her mom about it, and she said something like I think she scraped it at her grandfather's house on the stairs or something like that. And then there was like a small faint bruise like on her arm. I remember that. But there was nothing on the back of her arm.
Okay. And did you notice anything on her face?
No.
All right. Once you examine the child, you've now spoken to the mother. What do you do next as part of your investigation about this referral?
After interviewing mom and talking to Anaya, I did observations around the house. So to make sure that all utilities are working, make sure that the child has somewhere to sleep, make sure that she had adequate food and clothes and all of that.
And were you able to determine, was there enough food in the apartment?
Yes.
Were the utilities working?
Yes.
With regards to the utilities, how do you know they're working? Do you ask, for instance, in this case, did you ask Miss Day if all the bills were paid up and up to date?
I turned on the water to see if the water was working. I turned on the stove to see if the gas was working. The lights were working.
Okay, and so once you do that, is there anybody else in the apartment when you were interviewing the two of them?
No.
And did Miss Day indicate to you if she was dating anybody?
No.
Okay, is that something important that you ask?
Yes.
Why?
To see who else may have access or who else might be in care of the child.
All right, so once you have now spent an hour at this apartment in Euclid with Miss Day, is Miss Day in this courtroom here today?
Yes.
Can you tell me where she's sitting and what she's wearing?
Stipulate that this lady did not identify this day.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, counsel. Go ahead, Ms. Green. You don't have to point to this day. So once you conclude your interview at the apartment, what is the next step in your investigation?
The agency requires that we do at least 2 collateral contacts. I remember talking to the referent on several occasions. I can't say what, exact dates when I talked to the referent, but I talked to a few family members. I talked to.
When you say you talked to family members, which family members did you talk to?
I talked to her. I talked to her sister. I talked to her brother. I talked to her mother and father.
So if I were to say Erica Johnson, did you talk to her?
Yes.
Did you talk to Isaiah Day?
Yes.
Did you talk to Natalie Proctor?
Yes.
And did you talk to Eddie Day?
Yes.
All right, so those are considered collaterals.
Yes.
All right, what does that mean?
Those are sources who are familiar with the family and with the child.
All right, and so were you able to glean information from them?
Yes.
Okay, so once you talked to your collaterals, what did you do?
After talking to collaterals, I talked to family members. I also talked to her place of employment. I talked to the daycare.
To get ready, set, grow?
Yes.
Okay, who did you talk to there?
Chantel and Shaniqua,
Okay,
I believe is their names.
all right, and why did you talk to them?
Because they're another collateral. Mom works there. They see the child every day. They see mom every day. And if there were any concerns, I assume they would be able to report that to me.
Okay, and did you talk to both of them?
Yes.
All right, were they able to provide you information?
Yes.
All right, and so what did you do next?
After completing collateral contacts, I remember calling the hospitals. to make sure that she had been seen for her most recent will child check. And after talking to collaterals and completing an assessment, I review it with my supervisor.
Okay. And did you continue to investigate this case?
Yes, up until it was closed.
Okay. Well, prior to it being closed, why did you continue to investigate this case?
I continued to investigate it because it was something about talking to the referent that she was very adamant that she had concerns.
Objection. Hold
But she hadn't physically seen Aniya. So I was trying to find something that says, either there are concerns or there aren't concerns, but it made it difficult because she hadn't seen her.
Okay. And so did this referent continue to call you as well?
I kept in close contact with the referent throughout for the duration of the case, because she, like I said, she was very adamant that she had concerns, but it was also that she knew or alleged that she had known someone who had information. So I remember talking to her and urging her to have them call me or give me their contact. And I kept it, just even for that purpose, like that you have this information or have access to this information.
And does there then come a point in time where you meet with your supervisor?
Yes.
And as a result of meeting with your supervisor, what happens with the case?
The case was unsubstantiated and we closed the case in January.
All right. And moving forward, you're still at the agency.
Yes.
And turning our attention to March 9th of 2018. Does there come a point in time where you meet with Mr. Garrett?
I met with Mr. Garrett. I remember it was a Friday. And that was as a result of a referral from the court to do a home evaluation.
Okay, so where did you go and what did you do? Let's start with, why was there a court referral now?
It's my understanding that there was an upcoming hearing.
Objection. Go ahead.
That there was an upcoming hearing. One, because there was a protection order against the dad that he wanted to have lifted. And then also, I believe he was seeking custody of Aniya.
Okay, and so, excuse me, Ms. Green, at this point, even during the first time that you did your assessment of the referral that had come in at the latter part of December of 2017, were you able to review the other allegations that had been filed with regards to Aniya?
Are you asking about a previous case?
Yes.
Yes.
So you're able to review all that?
Yes.
All right, so now moving on to March 9th of 2018, what did you do?
Is March 9th the day that the referral came in? I can't give you exact dates.
You met with Mr. Garrett.
Okay, that was March 9th when I met with him. I remember it was a Friday that I met with him. I don't recall the exact date. When I met with Mr. Garrett, I was there for a long time. He expressed,
You can't say what you can't say what he said.
okay,
Did he provide you any photographs or show you any photographs?
no,
Did you talk to him about what his intentions were with regards to Aniya?
yes,
Your home evaluation, what is your purpose for going to the home?
to see that the home is appropriate for the child.
Okay, and did you do that?
Yes,
Was there a room for Aniya at that home?
yes,
All right. After meeting with Mr. Garrett, did you also have the same responsibility of going back to Sierra Day's apartment?
yes.
Okay, where did you go?
From his home, I did not meet with Miss Garrett.
Did you contact her or set up an appointment to meet with her?
I contacted her the same day that I contacted him. So that was prior to Friday. It may have been that Wednesday that I contacted them both.
Okay,
She told me that she wasn't available until that Monday.
okay. So Monday, the 12th is when she would have been available for you.
That is when I scheduled to meet with her and Aniya.
Okay, all right. So, did you do anything else that week?
No.
And then, ma'am, how did you come to learn of Aniya's death?
My supervisor called me on Sunday.
And after receiving a phone call from your supervisor, did you continue to work?
Yes.
And then what happened then on August 3rd, 2018?
August 3rd, 2018, I was terminated from the agency.
One moment, Your Honor. Ms. Green, I just have a couple more questions for you. With regards to your first visit to this apartment in Euclid to meet Sierra and Aniya, your unannounced visit, who was present at that time?
The first time I encountered Sierra,
Yes,
I spoke with her outside in the hallway.
so you never entered the apartment?
I did not.
Okay. How long before that visit and the visit you went back and met with Sierra and Aniya was it? How long did it take before you went back and met with both of them?
The exact amount of days, I can't recall, but I know that there were several days in between that time.
Was it a week? Was it 2 weeks? Was it a couple of days?
It was more than a couple of days, but I believe it was longer than a week.
Was it before January of 2018?
Yes.
Now, the last phone call you had with Sierra Day was sometime in March of 2018. You went to meet Mr. Garrett on March 9th. You had called her a couple days before.
Yes.
At the time that you spoke to Sierra Day, in March of 2018, did she indicate to you where she was living and where you were going to need to go on March 12th, 2018?
She did not.
Thank you. No further questions at this time.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
You keep what you call an activity log report. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
And in there, you try and recount as accurately as you can what happened during a visit or what steps you took.
Yes.
And you kept one of those for your visit when you went with Sierra and Aniya, correct, in December of 2017?
Yes.
And you indicated to us that when you went in, that Aniya was sitting watching a movie on a tablet
She was watching something on a tablet.
and eating popcorn,
Yes.
and that Sierra was listening to some type of gospel music.
Yes.
And it's fair to say that you first had an interview with Sierra, correct?
Yes.
And during that interview, at times, Aniya would politely ask for more popcorn,
Yes.
and Sierra would provide it.
Yes.
That seemed normal to you?
It seemed normal to me. Yes.
Okay. And then, after you finished your interview with Sierra, you got an opportunity to speak with Aniya, correct?
Correct.
And that was in front of Sierra.
Yes.
Okay. There was another bedroom that you could have gone to had you deemed it necessary, right?
Correct.
Okay. Or ask Sierra to excuse herself.
Yes.
And you indicated, I believe, that Aniya was soft-spoken
Yes.
and she was standing
Yes.
and she kind of twisted around when she talked.
Yes.
But would it be fair to say that she maintained good eye contact with you?
Yes.
Okay. So while she may have been twisting like a little girl, she was looking you in the eye.
She was.
Okay, so she wasn't turning away or trying to hide herself from you.
No.
When you asked her a question, sometimes she would repeat what was asked of her.
Yes.
You said, "What day is it?" Would she say,
She was
"What
like,
day is
what
it?"
day is it? Yeah. hmm
And how old was she at this time?
I believe 4.
Did she tell you she was watching a movie on the tablet?
I don't recall. It's possible.
Do you recall her telling you that Sierra was nice and that she likes to play with her?
Yes.
And that's what Aniya told you.
Yes.
And nobody had to make her say that, right?
It didn't appear that way.
Did she say she doesn't know what happens when she gets in trouble? Did you ask her that?
Yes.
What happens when you get in trouble?
Yes.
And she told you with that same eye contact, "I don't know," right?
Correct.
Did she say she likes to eat spaghetti,
She listed a lot of foods that she likes to eat.
popcorn, nuggets, cookies, juice, and water? You remember that?
I remember her listing a lot of foods.
Did she talk to you about what she likes to feed her Barbie doll? Remember that?
I remember her talking about a doll. I don't remember exactly the
She
conversation.
would often talk about food and what she feeds her Barbie doll. And then she told you that she likes to dance and hit the folk.
Yes.
What's hitting the folk?
I'm not sure.
Did she demonstrate that for you?
Yes.
Did she tell you that she sleeps with Sierra?
If I wrote it in the log, that's what she said.
Did she tell you she's not afraid of anyone?
Yes.
Did she tell you she likes to play
Yes.
and no one hurts her?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Longdana, nothing for this witness. Can you follow up on that?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down, thank you.
Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
Please state your full name, spell your last name for the court reporter.
Lori Ann Del Signor, Delsignore.
And Ms. Del Senor, by whom are you married? By whom are you employed?
Cuyahoga County Division of Children and Family Services.
And what division are you employed by?
Children and Family Services.
What division or what unit?
I'm in the Medical and Special Investigation Unit.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what unit that is and what it does for our community?
Our unit investigates out-of-home care referrals of abuse and neglect, so concerns in out-of-home care settings such as foster homes, schools, daycares, child residential centers. We also investigate medical neglect and child fatalities.
All right? And in investigating child fatalities, what are your duties and responsibilities with regards to child fatalities?
We investigate the concerns. If there's other children in their home, we are ensuring their safety. We gather information about the surrounding the death. We speak with the medical examiner's office, police, anybody else that's been involved in the family, obviously.
And Ms. Del Senor, were you employed by the Department of Children and Family Services back on March 11th and 12th of 2018?
Yes, I believe I was assigned March 12th.
And being assigned, were you assigned to investigate and look into the death of Aniya Day Garrett?
Yes.
And can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how you became involved and what your initial duties and responsibilities are?
The agency received a report due to the Aniya passing away. So it was assigned as an emergency priority 1, which means I have 1 hour to respond. In this case, there were no other children, so we didn't need to ensure the safety of another child, but I was communicating with the police that were involved, the detectives, the medical examiners, reaching out to family members to gather information. And typically with a case like this, we involve Frontline Services, which is a community service that deals with grief and traumatic loss. So we contacted them.
All right. And what is your purpose in contacting the family members and these services that our community provides?
To gather information related to the concerns for the child. And Frontline, like I said, they offer grief support and resources to families that have dealt with a traumatic loss.
All right. And are those services provided by your agency or by these other agencies?
No, we would make a referral to that agency.
And are those given to each and every family that suffers a loss of a child?
We try to link them with that resource. I can't say if every family does, but it's available to everybody in the community.
All right. And you said that you contact the police and the medical examiner's office. What do you mean by that? What is the purpose of your contact at this initial stage, ma'am?
We're contacting the police to see what information they've gathered thus far in their investigation. Although they're looking at it from a criminal aspect, we're looking at it from an abuse and neglect standpoint. But we collaborate with them to gather information related to the investigation and the concerns.
And do you review the name of the child to see if there have been any prior or past referrals in this case?
Yes, as part of our investigation, we would look to see what kind of history the family has had with our agency and what that entailed.
All right. And were you able to do that in this case?
Yes.
All right. And what were your findings?
There were prior referrals and concerns. There were prior referrals and concerns for Aniya in the care of her mother.
All right. And during your review of that, then do you contact the medical examiner's office, or do you go there? What do you do?
We typically contact them by phone to gather information with the medical examiner, yes.
All right. And is the cause and manner of death important to you in your investigation?
Yes.
All right. And did you contact the father in this case?
I did contact him, however, I didn't have any successful contact. I left voicemails and sent a letter.
All right. And you indicated you called the police department.
Yes.
Do you meet with the police department, or do you just call them? And
It depends. In this case, I just spoke with the detective assigned via phone.
all right. And what about the mother? Did you try to contact the mother?
When the case was first received, mother had been arrested, so I wasn't able to meet with her right away, but we have a liaison at the jail that we work with, and I was able to set up an interview with her to come speak with her at jail. And I did meet with her.
All right. And all of this process is for your department to determine what happened to the child.
Yes.
And Ms. Del Senor, do you also contact collaterals?
Yes. So the police, the medical personnel that's been involved, family members, relatives, friends that have had information that might be pertinent to the investigation.
All right. And you also collect medical records or things of that sort?
Yes, we request medical records. We request police records, school records, things of that nature.
Did you meet with Aniya's family members, her aunts, uncles?
I spoke with a few of the relatives, the aunt and uncle, and the grandparents on the maternal side. I didn't get in touch with anybody on the paternal side.
All right. And were they able to provide you answers to the questions that you asked?
Yes.
And then once you obtain all that information, what do you do?
So once we complete our investigation, we typically have 45 days to do our investigations. At the end of an investigation, we make a finding as to whether or not there was enough evidence to say if the child was abused or neglected. We have different dispositions we could make. There's a disposition of unsubstantiated. That would be if we didn't, during the investigation, if we didn't collect enough evidence to say the child was abused or neglected according to the law. We can make a finding of indicated if there's circumstantial evidence or isolated indicators of abuse or neglect. And the other finding we can make is substantiated if we feel that during our investigation, there's enough evidence based on the law to say that the child was abused or neglected.
And those are not legal determinations, are they, ma'am?
No,
Those are your interdepartmental determinations
correct.
that you make for children and family services based on a criteria that you have followed.
Yes.
Do you follow up with the collateral individuals that you designate as being collateral?
Yes.
Did you do that in this case?
Yes.
Did you contact any of the daycares?
I did not. There was other investigations going on with the daycare at the time.
Okay, and one moment. Nothing further. Thank you very much, Ms. Dustin.
Mr. Sampson,
No questions for this witness, Judge.
no questions, sir. You step down.
Thank you.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Good afternoon, Jennifer Krozak, Krocz. I am with the Euclid Police Department as a detective.
And how long have you been employed by the Euclid Police Department as a detective?
Well, as a detective since 2016 and overall with the department since 2007.
And what sort of training have you had as a general police officer as well as a detective?
So besides the basic police academy, which is required for all officers in the state of Ohio, I have received over 1,100 hours of training, investigations, and enforcement.
And detective, typically in your role as a detective, how are cases assigned to you?
Typically, cases are assigned by the supervisors of our detective bureau to individual detectives.
And detective, speaking in a general manner, what are the basic steps of an investigation?
So reviewing the information as it becomes available, including reports, statements, any other evidence.
And can investigations be handled differently, detective?
Yes, different types of incidents require different types of investigations. Sometimes multiple detectives are assigned.
And do certain investigations call for an investigatory team to be formed?
Yes, when an investigation requires that multiple detectives complete tasks simultaneously, a team is formed.
Now, detective, I want to turn your attention to March 11th of 2018. Were you working as a City of Euclid police detective on that day?
Yes, I was.
And what was your assignment for that day?
On that day, I had worked day shift and just left around 3 when I received a call that a 4-year-old little girl was found deceased under suspicious circumstances. That foul play was suspected.
And whom did you receive a call from?
I received telephone calls from the officers who'd responded to the scene, Aoki and Blakemore, I believe.
And after receiving this call, what did you do next?
So I responded back to the Euclid Police Station, to the Detective Bureau.
And when you arrived on scene, what did you observe?
Well, Sergeant Morawski and I had arrived on scene together. We conferred. Other detectives were then arriving, and I learned that the victim had been transported to the hospital, little Aniya.
Now, Detective Krozak, why is it that you first respond to the police station?
Because I learned that the victim had been transported away from the scene where she was found. I knew that we would have to wait for these assignments on which detectives were going to go which place.
And who was the person that was giving out assignments on that day?
That was Sergeant Morawski.
You indicated that the victim was at the hospital, correct?
Yes, and I had been transported by our fire department to Euclid Hospital.
So at this point in time, you learned her name, correct?
Yes, I had.
And what is the name?
Aniya, sometimes Aniya Garrett Day or Aniya Day.
After you learn Aniya has been transported to the hospital, are you dispatched to the hospital or another detective?
Other detectives. Sergeant Morawski assigned me as the lead detective, so I stayed at the station to gather some information. And Detective Sergeant Morawski and Detective Caruso both responded to the hospital.
And while you remain at the police district as a lead detective, what are some of the first things you begin to start doing?
In all investigations, the first thing you want to do is gather all the information that's known up into that time, which is what I did on this day.
And what information did you begin to gather?
I learned from Officer Eddington that Aniya had been believed to be deceased for some time, that rigor mortis was said to have already set in.
What did you do after obtaining this information?
So I started to gather the other information that was known to us at the time, including written statements by the defendants.
Now, who are you receiving those written statements from?
Those written statements were provided to Officer Eddington at the scene by the defendants.
And did you review those written statements as part of your investigation?
Yes, I did.
You indicated that Sergeant Morawski and Detective Officer Harold had went to the hospital. During the course of your investigation, did you remain in contact with them?
I did.
Did you receive updates from them?
Yes, I was receiving updates while they were at the hospital, and then when they came back to the station, I did review the photos that were taken by both the detectives and Officer Harold.
And Detective Crowley, why are you reviewing the photos that were taken at the hospital?
So as the lead detective, it's important for me to understand and observe all the information relevant to the investigation.
After reviewing the photos of Aniya that were taken at the hospital, what observations, if any, did you have?
So the photos showed that Aniya was extremely emaciated, appearing skeletal. She had obvious signs of trauma and abuse, including the deep dark bruise over her, or on her entire eye. That eye's swollen shut. There's a laceration therein. She had what appeared to be burns on her lower leg. There were other bruises on her body, and I also noticed that she had a missing tooth.
After reviewing the photos of Aniya, what did you do next, Detective?
Well, besides continuing to be updated on everything that was going on at both the scene and the hospital, I'd been able to review the defendant's statements. I also reviewed statements of the neighbors at Cultural Gardens.
Now, Detective Crozat, did you follow up with the other responding officers on scene?
Yes. So I talked to all the officers who'd responded, excuse me, been called to Cultural Gardens Department that day, March 11th. But I'd also been researching our database at the Euclid Police Station, which the brand name is TAC, T-A-C. It's our report management system.
Detective Crozak, why are you researching your city's report management system at this point in time?
So it's important for me to understand any involvement the parties have had with law enforcement up to that point. And that's what I did. I searched all the parties by name, by social security number, by the known addresses.
Why is it important to you to understand any involvement that the parties may have had up until this point?
As the lead detective, it's important for me to be fully aware of everything I can that might pertain to this investigation.
In addition to reviewing those reports, at this point in time, had you received the 911 audio?
I did, and I was able to listen to and review that 911 audio for this particular call that day.
Why were you reviewing the 911 audio for the call for this day?
It's important to understand how everything that's reported to the 911 call taker by the caller, exactly as it's reported and in the manner that it is reported.
And what if any observations did you have from listening to the 911 call that you reviewed?
I noticed that there was no excitement in the voices of the callers. Both the defendants had spoken during that call. There was no panic. It was very flat. It wasn't what I would expect for a medical emergency of a 4-year-old having stopped breathing.
Now, Detective, you mentioned that you had reviewed the TAC history reports from the city of Euclid. Did you review those reports in regards to Sierra Day?
I did.
And did you attempt to pull and review reports in regards to Deontay Lewis?
I did.
And did you attempt to review and obtain reports in regards to Michael Garrett?
There were none in our system. The one that I needed involving Michael Garrett, I had to request from the agency who took that report. It was not a Euclid report.
And you didn't have access to the other agency's operating system to pull reports?
That's correct. I only have access for Euclid's report management system.
And what is the process through which you had to undertake to obtain that additional report?
So I had to request from that agency, excuse me, from their public records division, both the report and the body cam of that incident.
And was that from the city of Cleveland?
It was.
And is that the report that's previously been discussed throughout this trial?
Yes, the one that Officer McFadden took, yes.
After obtaining these TAC history reports, did you discover through your investigation whether or not Aniya attended any daycares?
I did. And I, starting with that day, March 11th, I did start speaking with workers from those daycares.
And what were the 2 daycares that you determined through the course of your investigation?
Both the Harbor Crest daycare in Euclid and the Get Ready, Set, Grow daycare, also located in Euclid.
So beginning with Harbor Crest Daycare, did you make any attempts to speak with employees from Harbor Crest Daycare?
I did. I was able to speak with Michelle Marshall and Tamira Finley from Harbor Crest Daycare.
Were you able to obtain any documentation from the Harbor Crest Daycare?
I was, but I was actually able to get that from our TAC, our RMS at Euclid.
So the Harbor Crest observation forms were already associated with a previous police report?
Yes, they were attached digitally to that report that Officer Scrungy had taken in May of 2017.
And then turning your attention to Get Ready, Set, Grow Daycare, did you speak with anyone at that facility?
I did. I spoke with an employee, Chantel Milton, and also the owner-operator, Iron Das.
And did you also obtain records from Get Ready, Set, Grow Daycare?
Well, I requested both attendance records for Aniya as an enrollee at that center and employment records for Defendant Day, Sierra, as an employee there. And when I didn't receive records, I caused a subpoena to be served to the daycare center, and those records were never received.
Now, turning your attention to after you do the steps with the daycare, what is the next step in your investigation?
So I met with, well, I attempted to make a notification in person to Aniya's father about the death, but was unable to reach him. So notifications were made to both families, the Day family and the Garrett family, in the days just after March 11th.
After making the notification to the Day family, did you have interactions with members of that family?
Besides Erica Johnson, the other members of the Day family actively averted my attempts to contact or interview them.
Turning your attention to the Garrett family, were you able to make contact with them?
Yes, immediately, and cooperation was gained from the beginning with the Garrett family.
Who from the Garrett family did you speak with?
On March 12th, I spoke with Aniya's father, Michael. His great aunt Patricia was there that day, his fiance, Mai Kaban, and later on spoke with Aniya's paternal grandma when she was able to arrive here from Indiana.
In your interactions with the Garrett family, specifically Mr. Michael Garrett, was there evidence that you obtained from him?
Yes, in our first meeting, he provided me with photos of Aniya. One was, excuse me, dated September 26, 2017. That was the last date he'd seen Aniya alive. He also provided me with photos from September. They were taken August 31st, but they were shown here in court. They were injuries that were provided with the report, the referral to Cleveland, to Children and Family Services, and the Cleveland Police report that happened on September 1st. There were other photos of other injuries to Aniya. There was a photo of an injury to her back and upper buttocks, a bruise. There was also a photo of an injury to her tooth, where the gum was affected on the upper tooth.
Based on the evidence you obtained from Mr. Garrett, what, if anything, did you do with that information?
I did request medical and dental records for Aniya.
And why were you requesting those at that point in time?
Well, as being the lead detective in the investigation, I wanted to understand everything, all relevant information that could be pertinent to my investigation, and to come to an understanding of the history of the child's welfare.
And in fact, were you able to obtain dental records and medical records from Metro Health Hospital in regards to Aniya?
Yes,
And
I
would you
was.
recognize those if you saw them again?
I would.
May I approach, please, Your Honor? Detective, I'm handing you what has been marked for identification purposes. It states Exhibit 910 and 911. If you take a moment to review those items, please.
Okay,
And Detective, do you recognize states Exhibit 910 and 911?
I do.
And what are those, Detective?
These were the records provided that I'd requested. 910 is the dental record, and 911 is the medical record from the Metro Health Medical Center.
And Detective, are those records a fair and accurate depiction of the records that you obtained, or substantially similar to the records you obtained?
Yes.
Okay. Turning your attention to the dental records, states Exhibit 910. What, if any, information did you obtain about Aniya from the dental records?
So it says here that the patient's parent is concerned that the tooth is loose, and it's indicated as the same tooth that is pictured in the photo that Michael provided to me, and also the tooth that is missing in the photos of Aniya at death.
And which, does the record indicate which parent took Aniya to the dentist and when she was taken?
The date of the exam is June 21st of 2017. It says patient, but I did learn that it was her mom, Sierra Day.
Turning your attention to states Exhibit 911. Can you tell us the date range of the Metro Health medical records? When they do, what's the first date of treatment and what's the last date?
So the first day is Aniya's birthday, September 2nd, 2013. And the last day is going to be when she was a year and a half at March 25th, 2015.
And for the last date, when Aniya was a year and a half, was the weight of Aniya listed in the medical records?
So at that date, at a year and a half, she weighed over 26 pounds at 26 pounds, 2.2 ounces.
Detective, during the course of your investigation, were you able to determine the last date prior to Aniya's murder where she was seen, prior to Aniya's death, when she was seen by a medical health professional?
I was.
And what date was that?
July of 2017.
Now, Detective, as part of your investigation, did you obtain and review Department of Children and Family Services records?
I was able to provide all the relevant Children and Family Services investigations for Aniya.
And which investigations were you able to review?
Everything, including the first referral in February of 2017, which we heard Chelsea Lilly testify about. The second one from May 18th of 2017, which Tawana James testified about. And the final one, which we heard Erica Johnson speak of, and Laura Green, we heard her testimony. She was assigned to that.
In addition to reviewing the Department of Children and Family Services records, did you also reach out to the medical examiner's office as part of your investigation?
I did. And the purpose of that, and speaking to the forensic pathologist who performed the autopsy, is to determine the cause, which was trauma, and the manner of death, which is homicide.
And why is that relevant or important to your investigation, Detective?
Well, for obvious reasons, that steers the investigation. The forensic pathologist ruling is taken into consideration when considering which steps we will take in our investigation.
Now, Detective Krozak, at this point, after speaking with multiple witnesses, after reviewing the Department of Children and Family Service records, after your investigation up until this point, are you able to determine who had care, custody, and control of Aniya at the time of her death?
So reviewing those records from CFS, where Laura Green was the last worker to have documented seeing Aniya alive in December 2017. And the other things that you just mentioned that I had learned about. I was able to determine that only the defendants, Sierra Day and Deontay Lewis, had access to Aniya at the end of her life.
Now, Detective, you indicated that you reviewed the written statements provided by Deontay Lewis and Sierra Day to Officer Eddington.
Yes.
Did you do any further investigation in regards to locations they indicated they had visited?
Yes. So I followed up with the local Red Lobster restaurant to try and obtain video and learned that no video existed.
As a part of your investigation, did you seek to obtain leasing information from Sierra Day's residences?
I did. From Cultural Gardens, where they lived at the time of the incident. I also received lease documents from the parent company is K&D, and they are the management company for both Harborcrest and what was Parkside Gardens when, where we've heard testimony that they lived in Euclid for part of the time while Michael was still living with Sierra and Aniya.
Detective, as part of your investigation, did you also seek to obtain reports from the Bureau of Criminal Investigation Unit for Ohio?
Yes, so the Ohio, we call it BCI for short, it's Ohio's Bureau of Criminal Identification Investigation. We use their forensic laboratory to test most of our evidence or submit our evidence for testing.
And Detective, did you submit evidence for testing to BCI?
Yes, on about March 15th of 2018, I conferred with Dr. Maddox, who is employed with the state lab, BCI, and we reviewed the investigation up to that point, my report up to that point. We went over all the items of evidence that had been collected. And based on BCI's receiving guidelines and protocol, he determined which evidence items were submitted for testing.
And did you in fact submit evidence items for testing, Detective?
I did.
My approach, please, Your Honor. Detective, I'm handing you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 912. Can you take a moment to review that item, please?
Okay.
And Detective Krozak, it states Exhibit 912, the BCI report you received in connection with this investigation.
I'm sorry, could you repeat
It
that?
states Exhibit 912, a copy of the BCI report you received in connection with this investigation.
Yes, it is.
Is in the same or substantially similar condition to when you received it, Detective.
It is.
Detective, as part of your investigation, did you have cause to review the phone records and phone extraction reports for Defendant Deontay Lewis and Defendant Sierra Day?
I did.
And did you review the entire reports, Detective?
Yes.
Turning your attention to those reports, in regards to Defendant Sierra Day's phone
Yes.
extraction report, State's Exhibit 909, were you able to identify any search history or internet search history from that extraction report?
Yes. I noted one of the searched items that search was input on February 9th of 2017 was, quote, "Will a ice pack heal a black eye?" That was incidentally one day before Aniya presented to Harbor Crest Daycare with a black eye.
Detective Krozak, what, if anything, drew your attention to that search?
Well, the content of it and the fact that this entire investigation centered around abuse, and the child had presented several times, and there was documentation of Aniya suffering black eyes.
Detective, as part of your review of the phone extraction report, were you also able to look at the call logs for Sierra Day?
Yes, I did not see a call to any nurse hotline or medical hotline, information hotline. And there were 357 items searched in the phone, and not one of them was for nurse hotline or medical type service.
Detective, in addition to reviewing that, did you have the occasion to review videos associated with State's Exhibit 909?
Yes,
Did you have occasion to review a video on March 10th, 2018 at approximately 3:28 p.m.?
yes.
Can you inform us of who was included in that video that you reviewed from
I'm gonna finish that question.
Defendant Sierra Day's phone?
Objection.
Oh, go ahead.
The video was of the defendants, Sierra Day and Deontay Lewis, engaging in sexual activity.
And Detective, as part of your investigation, did you review all the crime scene photos?
I did.
Based on reviewing the crime scene photos and reviewing the State's Exhibit 909 extraction report video, were you able to determine the location where this video was?
Yes.
And how were you able to determine that, Detective?
So the photos from the search warrant, which I'd thoroughly reviewed, showed, you've seen them in court, the sofa, the blue pillow with the white pattern, the air conditioning, the window blinds, those were all depicted in the video the same way they were memorialized in those photos taken during the search warrant of the defendant's apartment.
My approach, please, Your Honor. Handy 11. I'm handing you what's previously been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 11. Is this the photo you're describing, Detective?
One in my hand, yes, State's Exhibit 11.
And in State's Exhibit 11, do you see the same green pillows that you saw from the video of the defendants on March 10th, 2018 at approximately 3:28 p.m.?
That's correct. I also see the couch, the blinds, and the air conditioning unit, which are pictured both in the video and it's exactly the way they appear here in this photo.
Detective, based on the photos of the crime scene, did you do any further investigation to learn the whereabouts of the defendants prior to discovering Aniya's body?
Yes, so you probably remember testimony and photos being displayed where there was leftover. In a photo of the microwave in the kitchen of the defendant's apartment, there was leftover food from Chipotle restaurant. After seeing that in the search warrant photos, I obtained video from the local Chipotle. I reviewed that video. And do you want me to go on?
One more.
Okay.
Detective, if you were to see that video again, would you recognize it?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I approach this one?
Right.
Nine 13.
What number?
913. Detective, I am playing for you State's Exhibit 900. State's Exhibit 913. Do you recognize this item?
I recognize the video, yes.
And how are you able to recognize this video, Detective?
Well, it is labeled the store's location and the address, well, and the street name. Plus, I've reviewed this video extensively after obtaining it.
And is the location shown as 2567 Lakeshore Boulevard?
Yeah, that's the store number, and the store is located in Euclid in our jurisdiction.
And what's the date on the video?
The date is March 10th of 2018.
And is this in the same or substantially similar condition to when you first received it, Detective?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want to fast forward. Oops, you guys mind if I skip forward? Okay. Detective, drawing your attention to the video at 18:34 hours, would that be 6:34 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
And Detective, at this point in time, are we able to see the defendants in the line for Chipotle?
Yes, ma'am.
And if, Your Honor, with the court's permission, could you step up?
Keep your voice up.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
And Detective, yeah, just don't touch these very sensitive. Can you point out on the screen where you see the defendants, Detective?
Okay, so right now in the video, the defendants are at the end of the line after having come along the windows here. But I recognize them immediately because they are wearing the same clothes that they were arrested in the next day. And Sierra has on pink boots, which we have documentation of her having worn.
Now, Detective, in this State's exhibit, do you see Aniya anywhere?
No,
Do you see any children with the defendants in this video?
Objection.
Overruled.
no, there are no children with the defendants.
And seeing the video to 1837. Well, we'll play from 1836-29. And Detective, at this point in time, are we able to see the defendants towards the middle of the screen ordering food?
Yes, they are ordering their, it looks like their food bowls are being made right there.
Stopping the video at 18:37:23. Detective, based on this video, did we just see defendant Deontay get his first serving of meat in his Chipotle bowl?
Yes.
Objection.
Resuming the video at 18:37:23. Stopping at 18:37:30. Did you just see the defendant get a double order of meat in this video for his Chipotle bowl, detective?
Yeah, it does appear that way, yes.
Fast forwarding the video to 18:38:15 and pausing. Detective, can you tell what it is in the defendant's hands as they are in the Chipotle line?
So those bags are from a local grocer, and it appears as if they've just gone shopping before going to dine.
At the local grocery store
Yes, ma'am.
on March 10, 2018 at 8:38.
At 6:38 p.m. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Military time. Pausing the video at 18:39:18. Detective, who do we see in the video paying for the defendant's Chipotle on March 10, 2018 at 6:39 p.m.?
So the defendant, Deontay Lewis, just handed a orange plastic-looking credit card to the cashier for payment.
And detective, at any point in time, did you watch this entire video of Chipotle?
I watched the entire day's worth of video.
The entire day?
Stores, yeah, their hours of operation that day. I watched the entire video. Yes.
And this is just an excerpt of that day that we are playing, correct?
Yes, it's recorded in increments. This is the increment that includes the time that they were at the restaurant.
For the increment of the recording for the time defendant Deontay Lewis and Sierra Day were at the restaurant buying their Chipotle, do you ever see Aniya in this video?
No, she's not there.
Thank you. One moment, please, Your Honor.
You right.
May we approach for a moment, please? Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing further at this time.
Thompson?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon.
You told us how important it is to get all the records that you can, correct?
Yes.
And you got dental records and human service records, hospital records, right?
Yes.
So I think what you told us is that as the lead detective, it's important to get anything that may pertain to the investigation.
Anything that I become aware of that I can get, I do attempt to get it.
Okay. And I think you told us that as you work through this investigation, you do things like listen to the 911 tape, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're listening for your training to see if you hear things that sound normal, I think you told us, or usual.
I don't know that I use those words.
Well, you said that perhaps the voices didn't sound right to you on this 911 call under the situation.
I said I didn't hear excitement or panic from either of the callers. That's correct, yes.
So what you're trying to do is you're using your training, correct? Your experience,
Yes.
and you're looking at things to see if they make sense to you.
I think if they're accepted by reasonable people, not necessarily just me,
Okay. You consider yourself a reasonable person?
I do.
So you gather all the records that you can, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as part of your investigation, you reviewed school records from this day, correct?
From the defendant, Sierra Day,
Yes.
I reviewed school records.
They were subpoenaed, correct?
Are you talking about her educational records? Okay.
And it's important to get each and every record that you can that may pertain to the investigation, correct?
School records are not necessarily pertinent to
Are you aware
the
that
investigation.
Are you aware that Ms. Day's records from Shaw High School were subpoenaed over almost not a year ago, but in April of 2018?
But if you say so, I'll take your word for it.
Well, you're the lead detective, right?
Okay.
All right. And they were turned over to the defense as is customary in discovery. You understand that?
Okay.
Back on April 18th of 2018, okay?
Okay.
So they've been in the custody and control of the investigative team for that amount of time at least.
Okay.
Did you review those?
I do not recall reviewing the defendant Sierra Day's educational records.
If I showed them to you, would you take a look at them?
Sure.
May I approach the witness? Judge Winston. Defendant's Exhibit A. Yes. Current, June 3rd, 2020. May I approach the witness? First show you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit A. Can you take a look at that? Have you ever seen that before?
Honestly, like I said, I don't recall having reviewed these.
Mind if we do so while we're here? This indicates that this is a report from June the 3rd, 2013.
Yes.
Okay. And it has to do with Sierra Day. Would you agree with that? Child's name?
Yes.
Okay. Would have been a senior in high school at this time?
If you want me to answer that, I'll have to look at it.
Okay, take your time.
This top document says meeting prior to graduation on April 30th, 2013. So I imagine it's approaching her graduation.
Okay. So if we were detecting, we would probably detect since it's right before graduation that she's a senior. So direct your attention to page, at least area 6. You with me?
Are you
Right.
referring to the highlighted portion?
Right up here.
Okay,
The 6th area of, if they discuss in this report. Okay?
okay,
And this will be an individualized education program.
yes, sir.
Okay. Now, they have a question, or they have a section here, present level of academic achievement and functional performance. Could you take a look at that and read that for me? Or just to yourself?
To myself.
Sure.
Okay.
Does it indicate at what grade level, while Sierra Day was a senior in high school, that she was functioning at?
Just in reference to her reading fluency, not her full functioning, but that her reading test performance was an average 3rd to 4th grader.
Okay. Third to 4th grade, correct? Showing you what has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit B. Can you take a look at that?
There's a lot of information here. A
Well,
lot of
let's just start with
pages.
this. Can you see who it pertains to?
The child's name is listed as Sierra Day.
And does it have a date when that report was made?
There's several dates listed on this.
Okay.
Take a break. You're just.
Oh.
Yeah, take a break.
Can I review it?
Sure. Case, all right.
You'll go. Did you get a chance to look over some of these Defendant's Exhibits A and B while we were on a break?
Just this one. I didn't get a chance to read it in its entirety.
And nobody ever gave you these before?
Like I said, I don't recall having reviewed them before.
I'd like to refer you again back to Defendant's Exhibit B. We talked about Sierra's writing being at, or reading rather, being at a 3rd grade level, correct? And would you agree with it? They had her writing in the 12th grade at 4.3 grade?
What you just highlighted says 4.3 grade equivalent.
Sierra's
Yes.
broad written language was measured at 4.3 grade equivalent.
Correct.
And math, 2.6 grade equivalent.
That's what it says in the document. Yes.
So in the 12th grade, she was reading as a 3rd grader,
Yes.
writing as a 4th grader, and doing math as a 2nd grader.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes.
Sticking with Defendant's Exhibit B, they did a summary and conclusion after performing these tests on Sierra. Would you agree with that?
It says summary and conclusions, and there's a lot of text.
So it's
Yes.
probably the summary and the conclusions.
Yes.
Okay. Would you agree with me that she was found at borderline intellectual functioning levels?
I would agree that that's what's
Do you want to
printed
read the
here.
paragraph? Let's
Yeah.
read the paragraph.
You want me to read this paragraph out
Why don't
loud?
you just read it to yourself?
Well, I was able to review this earlier. It does refer to her learning ability. It doesn't, I don't see anything in here referring to whether or not she knows the difference between right and wrong.
I don't think
It's
I
all,
asked you that question.
it's all
Did I?
learning ability.
Did I
Yeah.
ask you that question?
No,
Okay,
no,
just
you
checking.
didn't. Okay.
I'm asking you, we know how many scoops we got at Chipotle, right?
Yes,
2, right?
yes,
And you watched 24 hours of tape on that, right?
Yes,
Or
sir.
almost?
yes, sir.
And we could tell whether he had a burrito or an enchilada, right? Right?
No, that's not applicable to that, but,
Well, we have that information, that we've investigated, right?
okay, yeah, I did
So I'm asking
subpoena
you-
that video, yes.
And these were subpoenaed by the government. To be fair, right?
By the government, that's fair.
Right, by the prosecutors.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm presuming, yes.
Okay, so just, can I ask you some questions about it?
Yes, sir.
All right. She was found to have borderline intellectual functioning levels, correct?
That's what it says.
Would you have any reason to dispute the documents from East Cleveland provided to me by the government?
No, I'm not disputing them.
The client functions at the 3rd percentile when compared to the general population. Is that a summary and conclusion for Sierra?
That's what's printed here, yes.
Do you have any reason to doubt that that's accurate in the document that was provided me by the government from the East Cleveland schools?
No, I don't have reason to doubt that.
So that's not the 3rd percentile, like high, right? It's the bottom 3rd percentile of the population is where she functions, according to the documents provided to me by the government, correct?
That's what you just read.
Whether I read it or not, is that what the document that the East Cleveland School District gave to the prosecutor's office, who gave it to me, says?
Okay, start that question over.
Detective, it's not that I say it says that. Is that what it says?
Okay. That sentence, yes, I'm not disagreeing with what you've said that is printed on the paper here, no.
You're not disagreeing that the documents provided to me by the prosecution indicate that Sierra functions at the bottom 3 percentile of the population. Correct?
Correct.
And you were never shown this in your investigation.
Like I've stated, I don't recall having reviewed those records.
Showing you again Defendant's Exhibit A, the other document provided to me by the government, right? Based on informal interviews with parents, students, Sierra can successfully complete most tasks related to home living and recreation without any assistance, correct?
That's what it says, yes.
She will require assistance with knowing about jobs, reading, personal finance, correct? And
Yes.
everyday problem solving, correct?
Correct.
So that is cognitive, right? It's not learning ability there, correct?
I don't think I'm qualified to answer that.
One minute, Judge.
Okay.
Thank you, Detective.
Ms. Valentino, do you have any follow-up questions? Thank you.
Detective Kovac, you said that when you listened to the 911 tape, that the reaction of the defendants was not what you are used to.
Those weren't the words I used. I listened to it to be informed about exactly the way it was recorded.
Okay, and in your experience as in the law enforcement, now, how long have you been in law enforcement?
In Euclid, I started in 2007.
Were you in law enforcement prior to that?
Yes,
So in total, how long have you been in law enforcement?
14 years.
Okay, and isn't it a fact that not everyone reacts the same in a situation?
That's fair to state, yes.
Okay, sometimes you have one extreme to the other. Sometimes you have a person who acts calmly, then you have a person who acts a little less calm, all the way down to hysterics. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Now, how far you said they had grocery bags in their hand, and I saw them. What grocery store were those bags from?
Well, if you want me to state my presumption,
No, only if you know.
I can't say for sure. Based on the color, I attributed them to a local grocer.
Okay. And how far from Miss Day's apartment is Chipotle where they went?
Very close, walking distance.
Right across the street, correct?
For the most part.
Mhm. And so is Dave's grocery store, right across the street from this Dave's apartment building.
They're all in like a 1 mile square radius, yes.
In a plaza that's right across the street from the apartment building, correct?
The grocer and the restaurant are in separate plazas.
Okay, but they're within a 5-minute walk from her apartment building.
I can't say for sure it's a reasonable walk. It's not, it's reasonable to think that somebody would walk there, yes.
Yeah, within a 5-minute period.
I've never timed it. I can't say that.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. Detective, you were asked a lot of questions about Ms. Day in 2013 from the school records, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. As part of your investigation, did you obtain information in regards to Ms. Day's functioning in society from 2016 to 2018?
I most certainly did, yes.
Did you obtain information on her moving out into her own apartment?
A couple times, yes.
So 2 separate apartment buildings, both Harbor Crest and Cultural Gardens, where she reviewed and signed leases for, correct?
As well as Parkside Gardens.
As well as Parkside Gardens. So
Yes.
3 separate apartment complexes after she graduates high school that she's able to sign a lease for, correct?
Yes,
Did you review her employment history after high school?
I did.
And she was able to maintain a job as a daycare teacher?
That's correct, yes.
And reviewing her employment history, any complaints in regards to her inability to perform the work that she was doing?
Not by the coworkers that I interviewed, no.
So nothing that indicated in 2016 to 2018 that she could not function and understand in our community, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And your investigation, you also met or spoke and reviewed Department of Children and Family Services records, correct?
Yes,
And we've heard the witnesses testify from Department of Children and Family Services that they interviewed and spoke with Ms. Day, correct?
yes.
In regards to those Department of Children and Family Services records, any indication that there was any concern about Ms. Day's ability to understand concepts within our society?
No indication was made.
Any indication from those records that she was having difficulty paying bills, functioning, reading, maintaining employment?
No indication was made.
No notations whatsoever in all those records that you read.
That's correct.
And this is from 2016 to 2018.
Yes.
So from your investigation, other than the abuse that was observed to Aniya, was there any indication that Ms. Day was not able to function in the community in a reasonable manner?
No indication.
One moment, please, Your Honor. Nothing further.
So the records you got from 2016 to 2018 are from Human Services regarding Sierra, correct?
Are you referring to the Cuyahoga County Division of Children and Family Services?
Yeah.
Just so I'm clear that that's what you mean by human
Right.
services. Yes,
Right.
yes.
Okay, so you got those and you found that she could function well in society from those? Is that what you're telling Ms. Jordan?
Well, besides those and the other evidence presented, I also reviewed medical records from the time Aniya was born that was relevant to me from Aniya's birth through her death.
And let's see, she signed 3 leases, right?
Yes,
So that is evidence to you that she could function adequately in society because she could sign a lease?
in that, as it applies to obtaining the lease, yes.
Okay, so she obtained a lease and 3 times she signed a lease, right?
Yes, I've said that, yes,
Okay. And you checked with her coworkers, right?
yes.
I think you told us on direct originally that you tried to get her employment records, but they wouldn't give them to you.
Right, but I did speak with her employer, Mr. Iron Doss.
Let's talk about the records. You said that you were looking at employment records, right? Did you ever receive any employment records for Sierra from anywhere?
I had asked for the attendance records for employment. What I received is her application packet to Get Ready, Set, Grow.
Of any job that she ever held, did you ever receive employment performance records?
Not formally, no.
You interviewed some people, right?
Yes, sir.
What was her job at Ready, Set, Go?
She was a daycare teacher.
And what is a daycare teacher?
Well, I think we've heard testimony that those workers are supervising young children who are unable to supervise themselves.
Well, she's a babysitter, right?
No, that's not what I said.
Well, she reads, writes, and performs math between 2nd and 4th grade, right? According to the record given me by the government, right?
The daycare requires that they have educational training, which the records that I received indicate that she had those trainings that are required by the
training
state
did
of
she have?
Ohio. So that the child abuse training, the first aid training, and I can't cite specifically what else from memory.
You've reviewed those training records.
The records provided by Get Ready, Set, Grow.
Okay. But she reads, writes, and performs math at a 2nd to 4th grade level, yet you're indicating she was a teacher?
Yes, of preschoolers.
Okay. And she functions in the bottom 3 percentile of the population, correct? According to the records given to me by the government that were never shown to you.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Okay. Yes,
But we're going to say that that person is a teacher who's functioning well in society, correct?
that's how she was employed. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Detective.
And, Ms. Longino,
Nothing,
you stepped up, thank you.